everyone. We have an exciting day today. Luke has taken the day off and we've got a lot of fun plans today and some family things that we have to go take care of. So it is not a typical Tuesday around here at Camp David. We're very excited to have Daddy home and to go do some things together as a family that we've had planned, and just excited to see where the day takes us.
All right, I have no idea where we're going and I don't like this.
Luke doesn't handle being in the passenger seat very well.
I'm hoping wherever we're going has coffee because I didn't have any coffee before I left the house.
I didn't have any breakfast.
And the kids want to eat breakfast.
We're fasting.
But Mommy's up to some plans. I also hope that the plans don't include me chopping down a tree with an axe.
You never know what I put in the back of the car.
We don't have an axe, so I'm pretty sure it would be with an axe.
Yes, we do, Daddy.
So, that's a camping axe. You can't chop down a tree with a camping axe.
I want to see you do that with that axe. Hey, it's your adventure, people. Are you up for it?
No.
You better not be fasting, because if so, I cannot go to swim practice.
No, who's up for adventure today?
Me.
Okay.
We are Camp David Adventure.
We are.
We have to be up for adventure.
We have to be up for adventures.
I don't mind being in this passenger seat, but the only time Dad doesn't mind being in the passenger seat is when an Uber person is driving.
Or when I'm working.
But
Or when he's working.
it's the pilot in him. Luke flies, and so you know, it's understandable. But you gotta trust me. Do you trust me?
No.
The kids don't, I do.
This is my surprise to the family, is this little coffee shop that I discovered last week, and it's kind of a hidden treasure. It's not out in plain sight, and it's actually inside of these apartment buildings that are here in Parker. It is really cool. When you walk in, it's in this huge building, and it's like walking into a lodge or a huge cabin. And their menu is really unique too. They have a wide variety of things, but everything on the menu is local. I got the matcha blended tea, and I had the quiche, and I just love it. The tea is just really refreshing. And the kids and Luke are enjoying some things too. So we just thought we would sit here and enjoy this beautiful building and enjoy each other as a family.
This is called a brown butter coffee workout facility upstairs, and there's the coffee shop and bar. Well, it's like a coffee shop bar area. It's a really pretty place though. The ceiling looks cool. What'd you get, hon?
Got the blonde bullet.
What's a blonde bullet?
Has lemon, ginger, and orange in it.
Mmm. Is it good?
It's very sour, but I love it.
It's sour.
Yeah, it tastes like lemons.
Mm.
Drinking lemons.
She loves sour.
You guys like spending time with Dad today?
Yeah.
I have a brain teaser.
Oh, it's one of those. Okay.
Hey, what are you doing?
Drinking through a bamboo straw. Mom says it's healthier.
You're so hipster. Replying to comments. Jill's new life.
I am slightly stressed out, and let me tell you why. I did not know I was missing comments. I keep bringing it up, and I thought I would see everyone that was posted, and now Luke just showed me this new section in YouTube. So guys, I'm still learning, so please forgive me if I missed your comment. But now I'm going through all of our comments, and I found out there's ones that I never even saw off of my phone or the way I was checking it on YouTube. So now I'm trying to go back and all the way through and read all your wonderful comments. Thank you again, and if I didn't reply to you, I'm so sorry. It really bothers me. So that's what I'm doing. So guys, we had a really good time having coffee as a family, and the kids are over here playing shuffleboard. But this is an awesome coffee shop here in Parker, and if you live in the area, we hope you stop by because it's really cool. 3 plus. What are you guys up to?
Playing shuffleboard.
Who's winning?
I won 1 game. He won like 2 games.
Okay. All right, Kenya, give us some words of wisdom from an 11-year-old.
The Christmas smorgasbord.
Okay. In all seriousness, Kenya, do you have any words of wisdom for any other 11-year-olds out there?
Always look at life from the bright side of things. Like, look at the cupcakes and rainbows of things. Look at the positive, happy side. That's how I'm always so smiley and joyful. I look at God's great plan as just an adventure. You know what that adventure could, you don't ever know what that adventure can bring. And it's exciting.
All right, Luke.
What?
What's your advice to all the husbands out there who have a wife that wants to go cut down a Christmas tree?
Just say no.
Yeah, just say no. We'll just say, we'll do it next year, we'll do it next year, we'll do it next year.
What's your advice to all the dads out there of preteens?
Work a lot.
Work.
A lot of hours. Stay away from the house.
Leave mom with them.
Shopping today, and we went into one of my favorite stores, Williams in Sonoma, and Luke asked me to leave for a little bit, and I left, and I come back, well, we get home tonight, and he bought me a new apron so I can do all my holiday baking in my new apron. So today we are actually going to bake some pie. One of my favorite things about the holiday season is when I get to bake, and one of the things that I absolutely love doing is baking pie. The pies that we're going to be going over today are the 3 pies that I made at Thanksgiving, but we also make them a lot around here even for Christmas. So if you're entertaining this holiday season and you're looking for some good pie recipes, I hope you take a look at this video and try these recipes. These have been 3 no-fail recipes that have been quite a hit here at Camp David for several years. Each of the recipes will be linked in the description down below, and we will be doing 3 different pies today. The pies that we're going to be making today are apple pie, pecan pie, and of course the all-time holiday favorite, pumpkin pie. I did go ahead and bake each of these pies for our Thanksgiving get-together with our tribe of many, and it was a lot of fun. I had the kids help me on the apple pie, and I love apple pie. It's good in the summer, it's good in the fall, and it's always good year-round. The apple pie recipe that I use is a deep dish apple pie. But the first thing before we get started with our pies that you have to start with is your pie dough, or the pie crust. And yes, I do make my own pie crust from scratch. So really quick, we're gonna go over that recipe as well. So the first thing that we're gonna do is our pie crust. The pie crust recipe will also be linked in the description below. All the things that are made here today on today's video, you'll be able to find the recipe in our description below. So when you're measuring out, especially flour when you're baking, this is what I usually do. Now different recipes, and I usually in any of my recipes I'll try and tell you if you need to scoop the flour in your cup with a spoon, or if you can actually use the measuring cup and actually scoop it in. In the pie crust recipe, you can go ahead and just use your measuring cup and scoop that in with the flour. So we're gonna start. So when you measure, let's say you need 1 cup of flour, I go ahead and fill it up, and it is overflowing, but I take my knife
the straight edge of my knife and I make sure that I level it off. So now you have a completely level cup of flour. So for the basic pie crust recipe that I have, all you need is salt, sugar, butter, the solid Crisco, and ice water. What I use to make my pie crust is this Cuisinart food processor. And this is amazing. This was given to me a few years ago by my father-in-law. You guys all probably know him as Sarah and Luke's dad, and I have absolutely loved this thing. It is amazing. It is a workhorse. It does so many different things and it's got so many options on it. I use it so much in my kitchen and I don't know what I would do without it. I get the food processor, so you can take any regular food processor, and we're gonna go ahead and add our flour, our sugar, and our salt. As soon as I've added all of our dry ingredients, I'm gonna go ahead and put the lid on, and we are going to go ahead and just blend all our dry ingredients really quick. Get them all mixed together. The next step that we're gonna do is add our butter and our shortening to the mixture. And the butter, when you add it, and it says this in the recipe, you want to cut the butter into small pieces. And now we're gonna add our shortening. Same with the shortening, you want it cut into smaller pieces. Now that we have those added, I'm gonna go ahead and put my lid back on the food processor. We're going to mix it until it looks like a cornmeal. So we're gonna pulse it on your food processor and it's gonna mix until it looks like a cornmeal. All right, we're gonna take our lid off and check on it and see kind of what we're looking at here. So now it looks like more like a cornmeal once we have the shortening and the butter mixed in, and that's kind of the consistency that you're going for. The next step that we need to do is add our ice water. On the recipe, it reads 4 tablespoons or more of ice water, and this is one of those educated guesses, just like when we're doing our cinnamon rolls or anything else. When I was saying with my stuffed mushrooms, you want to add just a little bit, but then you want to see what the texture is, and you keep going until we get the texture that we are looking for. And you have to make sure that it's iced water, because that way your butter and your shortening aren't melting. So I'm going to start by adding 4 tablespoons of the ice water in my food processor. Now what we're going to do is we're going to blend this up and then start seeing what our texture is looking like. Okay, and as you can see, it's still pretty crumbly and flaky, and it doesn't really hold together like I need it to. This is where we just keep adding until we get the result that we want. So I did a few more, and you don't want to overdo it either, because then you can make the pie dough too sticky, and then it makes a very tough pie crust. All right, now you can see it, that's kind of start holding together more. The more that water carries throughout the mixture. So this is still after the second round, and it's still a little dry. I don't want to add too much more, but it's starting to hold now. Still just a little dry, so I'm gonna add just a little bit more water, not too much, not even a full tablespoon. Okay, let's see how that goes. We've got the consistency that I wanted. It's not too dry and flaky, it's just right, and it holds together when I press it out. On your regular recipe, what you'll do is you'll form it into a disc and wrap it in saran wrap and let it chill in your fridge for at least 3 hours. The first thing that you're going to want to do is to have either on your counter, or you can also have a pastry mat, and you'll want to flour the pastry mat really well. You'll start rolling your pie dough out to the correct size. Today I'm using 9-inch pie pans, so I want to actually roll my pie dough out to at least anywhere from 11 to 12 inches. That way I have some room to tuck up and then make the crust the way that I wanted. Once once you get your pie dough rolled out, you then want to transfer it to your pie pan. And when you do this, I've actually learned a trick. There's been, some people will roll it over their rolling pin and then transfer it. That works, but one trick that I've learned is to actually fold it in quarters and then unfold it in your pie pan. So let me show you how I do this. The first thing I'm gonna do is take my top half and I'm gonna fold it, but don't crease it. And then we're going to take it and fold it like this. And I'm doing this one-handed right now. And then I just unfold it in my pie pan, and now I've got it transferred over, and now I'm just gonna fix it a little bit better. So now that I've got my pie crust transferred in, I'm just gonna gently make sure that we've got it pressed in, nice and even. And then I will take a paring knife and I will trim evenly around the edge. So this extra pie dough that you have, I'm going to actually put it back in the fridge, and we'll get that back out in just a little bit. But there you have it, one pie crust done, and so you'll want to roll out the rest for the rest of the pies that you're doing. Okay, once you have all your pie crust rolled out and in their pans, and before you do any other prepping of your pies that you're going to make, that leftover pie dough that you had from cutting your edges off of the pie plate, what I've done with mine is I've taken some parts of it and I've rolled it out on my mat, and I am actually cutting shapes. I've found some cookie cutters, and I'm going to use each of these decorations on my pie with my extra pie crust just to help them be more in the Christmas or holiday spirit. At Thanksgiving, there's been years where I've cut out a turkey with the leftover pie crust that I have, and I put it in the middle of the pie, and it just makes it more festive and more fun for the holiday. All right, so I chose this cookie cutter, and what I'm going to do is I've already cut out one leaf, and this one doesn't have the pointed ends, so what I've done is I've pinched it so it looks a little bit more like holly, since they've got the sharper, the more defined point on the leaves, and I've just kind of taken a knife and scored it. So I'm gonna set these around, and I'm gonna do a few of these. I'm not gonna do this all the way around my pie crust on my pecan pie, but we're gonna cut out a few, and I'll show you how I make it look a little bit more like holly. Now that we've got our pie crust rolled out, we're ready to start with our pies. And the first pie that I'm going to make today is the pecan pie that I made for Thanksgiving. And this is actually a recipe that I found many years ago, and it's actually a Martha Stewart recipe. But the ingredients that you're going to need for this pecan pie recipe is going to be eggs, sugar, maple syrup, melted butter, dark corn syrup, pecans, vanilla, and bourbon. And yes, I said bourbon, and don't worry about this, it bakes off in the baking process, but it gives the flavor really good depth. So we're gonna start out adding our sugar, our 4 tablespoons of melted butter, and our dark corn syrup, our maple syrup, our vanilla, our bourbon. Once we have all those ingredients put in our mixing bowl, we're gonna mix them and combine them. And after we do that, we're gonna I take 1 cup of the pecans. This recipe calls for 1.5 cups pecans, but I only take 1 cup and I add them in. And we're just gonna fold them into our recipe. Now we're ready to transfer it to our pie crust. And now what we do is we just add our mixture to our pie crust, and it fills it up pretty full. The next step that I do is I take the rest of the pecans that we have, place them on the top of the pie. The next thing I'm going to do is decorate the rest of my pie crust. So I have some beaten egg yolks, and I just take a brush and I'm gonna help it attach, and then we start placing it around our pie. And I'm trying to make it look like holly. So I've done some little circles. These are not perfect. I did them really quick. And I'm going to try and attach them and see what it looks like. This is all experimental. I just try new things, so I'm interested to see how these will go.
The next step for the pecan pie after you get everything set is to let it chill in the fridge for about 30 minutes. And then after that, we're gonna put it in a 400-degree oven for 15 minutes. And then after 15 minutes, we turn the oven down to 350 degrees and we bake for another hour and 15 minutes. The next recipe that I'm doing today is the pumpkin pie recipe. For this pie, it requires to have a pre-baked pie crust.
I've already rolled out my pie crust and I have parchment paper, and I'm gonna put the parchment paper inside my pie crust. The next thing I have is pie weights. And you don't have to have pie weights. You can actually use pinto beans, dried beans like that. And what we're gonna do is take our pie weights and spread them out. Spread them out over the parchment paper. And this keeps our pie crust from bubbling up.
For the pumpkin pie, we're gonna pre-bake the pie crust at 375 degrees for about 10 minutes. While the crust is in the oven baking, we're gonna go ahead and make our pumpkin pie filling. Now we're gonna move on to my pumpkin pie recipe that I've used for all of our holidays. And the ingredients that we're gonna use for this are dark brown sugar, pureed pumpkin, cornstarch, salt, nutmeg, ground cloves, pepper, whole milk, and heavy whipping cream. So the first thing you wanna start with is 15 ounces of pureed pumpkin. In past years, I've actually done my own pumpkin puree where you bake the pumpkin and you scoop it out and then you go ahead and save the puree, and I've used that fresh pumpkin before. But today we're going to use canned pumpkin, and the recipe does work really well with just the canned pumpkin. And to that we're going to add our 3 eggs, and then we're also going to add the brown sugar. Once we have the pumpkin, brown sugar, and eggs put in the bowl, we're gonna mix them really well together.
Next we'll add our heavy whipping cream and our milk. We're gonna add our cornstarch. This is ground cloves, cinnamon, ground ginger, and nutmeg. And our ground pepper.
I know it sounds really strange adding pepper to pumpkin pie, but the pepper actually enhances the flavor of pumpkin. Once everything is all mixed, we're going to transfer it to our pre-baked pie crust. Once we have our filling transferred to our pre-baked pie crust, we're going to bake your pumpkin pie in a 375-degree oven for 50 to 55 minutes. And once you get to about the 25-30 minute mark, you want to keep checking on the pie about every 10 minutes. And what you're looking for is that it's set in the center. So when you move the tray that it's on, it's not still runny or liquid in the center. It looks set. There's one more thing that I'm going to do while my pumpkin pie is in the oven baking. I have taken some of the extra pie dough that I had, and I had a Christmas tree cookie cutter, and I went ahead and cut out some leaves and the Christmas tree, and I'm going to bake them in a 350-degree oven just for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then once my pie's done, I'll use these to decorate and garnish my pie with.
And here is our pumpkin pie out of the oven.
One of the other pies that is a huge hit around here at the holidays is the apple pie that I make. It is a deep dish apple pie, and actually the video that you're gonna see today is when I made it at Thanksgiving with Kenya and the cousins, and I wanted to go ahead and show that. It was a lot of fun baking in the kitchen with them and teaching them how to make this apple pie. I'm teaching everybody here how we're gonna do it, so get it straight in the middle, Luca. Push it on. Okay. Keep pushing. Okay, there you go. See, we kind of hold on to it. Tori, keep turning.
Don't put your hand, there you go. Keep pushing it through. Good job, Luca. Yeah, okay. Now Luca, just very carefully slide it off. All of it. Stack it, and I'll cut it for you. Okay? We'll keep it cut. All right. Ugh. So once we've cut up all the apples and I've had a great sous chef, Luca is helping me. What are we doing? Turn the heat down. What are we doing here? Melting
The butter?
Yes. You're gonna melt the butter and we're gonna add the apples. Kenya's helping too. I've got two awesome sous chefs. Ooh, it's a lot of apples, people. Okay, we have so many apples because we are making 2 pies. So we've doubled the recipe. Usually you only have 2 pounds of Gala apples and 2 pounds of Granny Smith. So after we sauteed them in the butter, we added all the spices. So we added cinnamon, nutmeg, brown sugar, white sugar, lemon juice, and flour. And now we've got this beautiful, beautiful filling. What do you think, Luca?
It's good.
So I really enjoyed cooking with Kenya and Tori and Luca. And now we're gonna roll out our pie crust and we're gonna get the filling in and then we're gonna bake them. And ready to go in the oven, and we're gonna bake it at 350. We have finished our apple pie. Our apple pie is done. Yay! And there you have it. And I hope you guys enjoy it as much as we did.
I think Zoe would enjoy it.